Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm, back in the park, getting as much nice weather as we can. But in reality, I don't like the cold, or I don't mind the cold weather either. Just put on more clothes, it's the same sun. Just the axis is pointed a little different. So you know what we're doing, looking for our definition of sensorality. How does identity affect grouping? Last episode we talked about, we're trying to make some sort of differentiation in just straight up mathematical ontology, which is weird that I have to make that differentiation because I'm still a nobody, quote unquote. But everything is that we demonstrate the consistency of language and we're pointing out empirical evidence trying to derive a physical law. But we wanted to make a differentiation between a group, a set, and a category. And the biggest, most progressive thing we could have said was a set is set, right? Very literally, linguistically, logically, don't need to explain it, but it means it's invariable. And so what's bigger? What has a bigger cardinality? What has a bigger size? A group or a category? Without much rigor, it's category, but if we need to develop that more, we will. But how does your identity affect your groups, right? Who are you? Who am I? Well, I'm Brad, with a black sweatshirt on, right? The first thing I said was my name. And then if you introduce somebody, you say how many years you have, right? And it's typically, you know, I'm 32 years old, but if you're not in English or whatever, you'll say, I have this many years. And so, nothing too special about the logic, but the first thing you say is your name. But right, is your name unique? If my name is Brad, if my name was Bill, would my life experience have genuinely been any different? No, right? So it's pretty arbitrary. Well, it's very literally arbitrary from your parents, but not to you specifically. The point being is the first thing you identify is your name. When you're a little baby squirming around and your parents are like, hey, little Johnny, you say, oh, that's me. That's when they're talking to me. So first is your name, then pretty much your age, and then your personality, right? What do you like, right? And then little kids will define themselves as what they like, or what they are is what they don't like. Adults, typically, the more mature you are, you define yourself as the things you do like. And when you're a teenager, young adult, even to, you know, up till pretty much, like life is all young, but pretty much, I don't know, again, there's no hard cutoff, but to like 40 or 50 or something, you know, you're trying to build up your career, and so there's still this sexual antagonism, but it manifests through business, right? And so as you get older, your identity becomes what your job is, right? Profession as an adult, typically that's one of the first things, you know, what do you do? People are talking about what do you do for money? What do you do to be productive to society? What do you do for work? Right? I produce all of the information that everyone just shuts out because, well, ontological shock. They literally made a label for something before they just changed their behavior. But obviously those are all aspects that affect your identity and your group. And so typically when you get any sort of negativity, bad vibes, it's from judgment. It's from, again, this sense of arrogance in a very, very general sense. We've made a very poignant distinction. Ignorance, just not knowing something, is natural. That is the most natural thing that could ever occur. Being arrogant, confidently not knowing something, saying, I've never studied the history of India, and so I'm going to go teach you couldn't like feign teaching because you'd have to say words, but you're going to assert dominance. I've never built a business, and I'm going to tell you how to build a business, all right? And so that's the arrogance of asserting something you don't know confidently. Ignorance, just not knowing something. And so as you age, you typically identify yourself as things you do as opposed to things you don't do. And typically, because that's a lot of things, like you have to build a personality. It's not located anywhere, but it's a real dynamic. And so if you don't develop a personality, you literally don't have one. And so when you're younger, simply from the fact that you haven't been alive long enough to really develop a skill set or something that differentiates you, a specialty, in the most general of senses, you just identify what you're not. I don't want to be a Arsenal fan. I don't want to be a Bills fan, whatever, you know. But obviously identity and grouping is intimately related. And again, so that's a generality, right? Speciality is axiomatized as the differentiation for sexual antagonism. It doesn't say it's good or bad, it just says it is. And so all of our axiomatized definitions don't have this connotation to them of good or bad. They're just demonstrably logically consistent. The opposite of a basement, again, notice not a basement, but a space basement, because now we have to be very poignant about our spacing, is an attic, right? If I have a house and I have a basement, the opposite of that, logically, is an attic. Sensorality is atticality, right? And then you have Attica, New York, and Attica, an attic. So what do we name ourselves, right? If you're Alexander, Iskander, right? You're named after Alexander the Great. Mary, you're named after Mary, the mother of Jesus, right? So what we name ourselves is like people are role models effectively. But so when you have Attica as a name, right? That was like all of these pieces of like ontology are still preserved sometimes in names, right? It's a proper noun, but it's really an ontological word. So sensorality is atticality, right? It's the range. Base, literally, right? A basement. The opposite of that is an attic. So you get this analogy or this metaphor of a house, but it's still logically fundamental. And again, when I say fundamental, I mean frequency of use. All of your most frequently used verbs are irregular. And that's some aspect of this differentiation. But what is a species? All right? We keep saying speciality, special. Then what is a species? It's sexual compatibility. If you can reproduce with any two organisms that can reproduce are the same species, do we agree with that? Right? Because you can have breeding, right? What's the difference between a breed and a species? If I have a different breed of dog, it's still breed is derivative from species, but is a Cocker Spaniel, a Golden Doodle, is that people would still say it's a dog, but then if you span that out to human beings and say, you know, if our DNA is sexually compatible with something else, again, you still share I don't know the exact number, but it's like 95% of your DNA is the same as a banana, but you can't sexually reproduce with a banana. You're still more of a banana than you are a tree, I think so, or a rock, certainly a rock. But that's what I'm saying is like, getting at is this differentiation in our genetic code. And right, so what really defines a species, I don't think is complete and certainly not rigorous enough to be axiomatized to say it's sexual compatibility. But we have the phrasing opposites attract, right? This differentiation, it's like oil and water, and you know, it's in some cliche country song right now. But I don't think sexual compatibility is the complete definition of a species. And I just don't know, but a species and a breed, we made that differentiation, but then attract, attic. Attic, linguistically, attic is related to attract. And so, don't really want to say anything there, but again, you'll say in the same last episode, if someone's objectifying you kind of with a positive connotation, saying you work really hard, and you say he's a machine, right? You might also say he's a different type, he's a different breed. Just again, another just expression that we make. But now we can make a big connection. What is a scientist? Ha, beat you to it. A scientist is a sensorist. Sensorality, now we're using it as a proper noun almost, right? We wouldn't capitalize scientist in a sentence, but you would capitalize a scientist's personal name. Laplace, Lagrange, Hamiltonian, Hilbert, Gilbert, whoever. I don't know, is Gilbert somebody? Oh no, that was the police chief. Oh, law enforcement, you guys are so fucked. Oh, I'm just smiling and waiting on that shit. But a scientist is a sensorist. So right now we're comparing, or we're equating, again, two linguistical elements, words with letters, not just the sounds, but the letters, the letter representations. And as you can clearly see that sensorist is kind of close to scientist. And so, but what is a sensorist? One who uses their senses. What is science? See how you can't say anything because a sensorist is a thing, just like a vibrator is a thing? Sensorality is scientality, right? No one's generalized what science is. Beat you to it. It's using your senses, haha. But, and again, not but, like there's no but, this is all true. I'm just demonstrating the consistency of language for you, as I've said like a million times. But now if we take off that S in scientality, or scientology, whatever you want to call it, pronunciation doesn't really matter. Tomato, tomato, ha. But scientality is sensorality. Now if you take science and remove the S, and then you take efficiency and move the sound F, right? What are those two bases of science and efficiency? Science breaks down to scientality, and cien, that's, again, not English, that's 100 in Spanish. So you have a base cien there, which again, just demonstrating the languages are not unique. And then sorality, again, you have that orality, we've kind of reduced that enough, but that efficient, we can take off the first EF, and you can take off the second F as well. But you see how they have the same base, right? Efficiency and science are the same thing. It's literally, think about it, axiomatically think about it. What is the scientist doing? Producing more information. What does more information do? Makes you more efficient. Huh. So they're the same thing. We've proven science is a form or emergent from efficiency. And it's right there in the letters. You can just see it. It's right there on your screen. Sorality is scientific, because remember, we're solving sorality through the form of sensorality with a C. Sensorality is scientificality. If you're scientifical, if you're scientific. Here we are sensoric, sensoralitic. Doesn't matter. All right, we're so far down in that spiral, you're just getting shit on at this point. Hey, let's take a moment. Let's go around the room and just reflect on maybe your favorite lecture of mine, your favorite proof I've demonstrated for you, the favorite theorem I've provided. Just go around the room and share, talk about how great I am. But now we generalize efficiency. What is the difference between efficiency and sufficiency, right? If you're efficient, you're maximizing your ability to do work. You're maximizing your conversion of energy to work, input to output. If you're sufficient, you're just good enough. So why? Clearly they're very rooted on the same stuff. Sufficient versus efficient. What's the difference? Why? Well, we just said what the difference is. Now we're going to continue our logic. I just asked, these questions are rhetorical, Woodcock. I'm just showing you the steps. But sensorality tends to sufficiency, right? And now what is that exact difference between efficiency and sufficiency? Efficiency being the maximum, sufficiency being the base. Just good enough versus the best you can be. Gullibility is proportional to ignorance. If you just don't know something, you're more likely to be susceptible to misinformation. Or lying. Disinformation is lying, right? Misinformation is just not knowing something and then misspeaking, saying something that you didn't have enough data to make a definitive conclusion. And information is something productive that produces work, because it's not formation, because it doesn't violate the conservation of energy or mass. Ha! I solved all of science and didn't even violate a conservation law. Gotcha. What is a gyration? Right? Vibration, oscillation, undulation. What is a gyration? Consider the following. Me and Miss Jennifer Ouellette were gyrating. I don't know, maybe a 3 to 5 paragraph essay, just write down, jot some thoughts of what our gyrations could have amounted to. But well, it's all serious. I'm just putting that out there, just putting my good vibes out into the universe. Jennifer Ouellette, don't know if you single out there, who knows, just putting it out there. But gyration euro, right, that food thing with a GY in front of it, what's that? Right, so this prefix GY. Clearly it's like, again, the geometric linguistics is popping out. For whatever reason, there's like symmetry to if a letter breaks below because like the size of my notebook, this line spacing, these are all physical limits, right, that other people have condensated or condensed or, formed because of efficiency. And so, right, gynecologist, gymnasium, right, that's a big word, right? All the way back in one of my beginning lectures, I'll define athleticism. Athleticism is proportional to rhythmic motion, right? If you can dance, right, if you have rhythm, you can dance. But athleticism, gymnasium, right, it's a big word from the Greek translation. We're like, what is it? A place where you exercise. Well, now we have another fundamental differentiation already present in language. Concentric motion versus eccentric motion. Right? If I'm doing a back squat and I squat down, you're concentrating, that's the concentric portion of your motion. And then when you extend, that's your eccentric portion of your motion. And so once again, like I said, we're only just connecting differentiations that have already been made, because life is this forcing function of memory. We have to find the most efficient words to describe physical processes. And that's what everybody's doing. English is not some distinct language. That's why it has the most words. They're just unique sequences of syllability. Where were we at? So we did the concentric, eccentric, but sensorality is centricality. Is that condensing? When you tense up, concentrate. Tension is proportional to concentration. Or is it on a personal level? If I am tense, am I better at concentrating? Well, if I'm concentrating, I'm more tense, so yes. Sensorality is societality, right? Societality. Life likes to socialize, right? I'm making a YouTube video. I'm a monkey sitting on a rock talking to a microphone to tell all of my other rock mates all of the information I discovered. But they can't change their behavior. so they don't publish Brad's paper even though the Constitution says they should or have to.
but they don't because, well, we can do basically whatever we want. And then Brad knows more about our little science club members than you guys do. And then we're like, what the fuck? Who's helping Brad? And it's nobody. Brad's just, right, you guys went to school to learn how to play basketball, but you're not LeBron James. And when it comes to, when I say my EQ is over 1200, it's kind of what I mean. Trivially solving all the science would be the 1000 IQ points. The what the fuck moment when you interact with me, that's the 1200 EQ points. I've gotten a lot of points so far. Again, shout out to my old friend RJ Ball from high school. Bro, I am racking up serious points out here, still not getting any women. And if you don't know what that reference is, go watch one of my other videos. But societies are sensoralities. Society is efficient. Right? Why do we have cities? Why do we have logistic chains? Why do we have businesses? Because no one needs to be a police officer, a fireman, a welder, a trashman, a gardener, all at the same time, right? It's efficient. This balance between efficiency and sufficiency is what sensorality is. The desire to go out there and be crazy, but to settle down. Whoa. Life. Another nice dichotomistic pair. Oh no, sorry, jumped ahead. Consent is a choice. There's just some theorems, but like I said, this is in order. And for people reading these notebooks, I write on this side of the page first, then I go here, and then I go to the next page. It's just how I do it, no real reason. But so if you're reading, it's not just, I don't write on the back side of the page first. But just these are just theorems, and these are the orders that it comes to me with enough poignancy for me to put it into a video. Because I can do theorems literally all day. It's not that useful or insightful. How does vibration relate to efficiency and sufficiency? Remember, because vibrations are physical base. So how does the physical process of vibrating relate to being efficient and to being sufficient? To being just good enough and to being as maximally good as you can. Another interesting dichotomistic pair, surf. I'm going surfing on the waves today. Surf's up, bro. Shred the gnar. Right? Surface. Surf, surface. See, you didn't make that connection until I just said it. I know you didn't. All right, I was surfing on the surface off the island that is land. Right? See how language is consistent? That was complete logic. It progressed logic. It was different. But now look at the words. An island is land. It's true. Oh, but I got some more, and I'm documenting ontological shock. I don't edit anything. I restrict what I say because I have to, because I have to put this on YouTube. And Science Club, you've seen what I say behind closed doors, and that's not being me being emotional. That's me being a judge, me being the patriarch of a species, actually, literally. But what was I gonna say? Where was I going? Oh, surface. Oh, the ontological shock. So I posted a short, and go watch it, the algorithm and logarithm. And I literally just say it has to be based on rhythm, because it does, because you say the word rhythm, and then that algo and logo are just two different iterations of the same letters, which they are. G-O-L and A. And L, right? And so you can literally, you have to understand, to the people that are watching this, both that know me personally, that have kind of known me through these videos, and that have never met me in the future, me just stating facts that exist, like there's a tree over there, the sky is blue, is causing people to have emotional breakdowns. And then the whole society came together to say, yep, he might be mentally ill, not we're the problem. Yeah, no, I just like I said, like trading stocks, like doing nature stuff, and I like women. That's pretty much what I would identify myself as. That's what I would categorize myself as. Just have a math subject in my head. But again, just ontological shock, and then surfing on the surface off the island that is land is showing you, again, this consistency where you're just modifying prefix and suffix, because the base, the phonetics, the sounds that we make just are just changed by the sequence in which they arrive to your ears. What is the relationship between emphasis and basis, right? What this efficiency, efficient, cien, right? So you're emphasizing, what syllable do you emphasize? Is that the base syllable? Is that always the base word? How does that relate to the base word? Clearly there's something, emphasis, society. So I'm just thinking that there's got to be some, every time you have emphasis or you intonate aggressively, or you raise that intonation, you're emphatic, is towards the base syllable. Something's going on there, and then clearly basis and emphasis are linguistically related. The linguistical correlation should be beyond obvious. I mean, they're the same letter, the same syllables.
But it's just connecting this logic, and then again, right, this dynamic equilibrium of enough difference, but we're all still the same, but we're still different. Same is true with language. We talked about efficiency, and again, efficiency has 4 syllables, and that's like our major operative word, because again, it's not English. So that's fun, I guess. I don't know. But the last thing, because like I said, when we axiomatize sensorality, it's not, the derivation is not going to stop. That's going to be the complete proof for one effing word, one word family. There's clearly a lot of words out there. So don't wait for like a resolution where it stops, because I axiomatized speciality 6, 7 years ago now, and so like we're still doing new derivations with speciality, and then all this derivation is self-contained by me, so there's nobody else really doing it that can have access to a complete proof. Oh, you can, but you just see how much work has to be done. And when I interact with people on a personal level, I kind of have a gauge of how much logical structure they have, and it's just effectively like nothing, because what I do is trivial to me. And so when you're over there like, you could have $1 million for the Riemann hypothesis, I'm like, you know what, you can have that million, you go for it, Johnny. 1 + 1 = 3, who cares? Because it's just so disparate from what I do. And I would, again, you would literally be like the Albert Einstein level of social recognition if you had like an IQ of like 170 and did something, like accomplished something. You can have the raw intelligence, but you still have to put the pieces together. And that was true for me too. Again, I have always had this intuition. I'm a little different just because my raw intelligence is so much more progressed. Like I'm talking like literally going into preschool, raising my hand, legitimately asking a question. Teacher, if we all write a paper, we're all going to write the same thing because we're all going to derive this to the same logical conclusion. Like literally. That's to do that, for that to occur, would have to have somebody else operating at this level for decades. And I was just like born that way. Yeah, that's really just true. And so finishing up with some more theorems, I guess we got some more stuff. But contact intact, right? What is internal and external of a system? A system is intact. How do we make progress? Again, we just put another stepping stone forward. We pose a question, it gives us some intuition, and then we just say anything we can make that is logical, that's definitively logically true to make our progression. What is a system? A system is intact. What does intact mean? It's bonded, right? So we're just progressing our definitions. Sensorality is tactility, right? Anything that's viscerality is tactile, palpability is tactile, sensorality is tactile. But you just said, Brad, your personality is not you can't, where's it located? Again, we're building out our definition. This is all of the context in which anything that a censorship or sensorality would apply. Sensorality is tactile. Might as well keep going. What's the difference between a vitamin and a mineral, right? Another differentiation we've already made. A vitamin, it's good for metabolism. A mineral, also kind of good for metabolism. What's the difference between a vitamin and a mineral? I don't know. Vitamin, there's a lot of B vitamins. There's thiamine and niacin, and what's a mineral? It's like phosphorus? Is that like salt? So but again, my point is what I'm showing you is I didn't make this differentiation, you didn't make this differentiation. The collective memory of the human species says there's a difference between vitamins and minerals. So what is it? But these are natural groupings, right? These are all, like I said, language and anything scientific is indiscriminate, or not indiscriminate, it is not relevant to the person that produces it, right? Kind of that converse saying we said is, right, don't shoot the messenger. But really it's like, that means like don't hurt somebody for somebody else, what somebody else said. Or for somebody else's actions, choice, decree, wherever that saying originated. But the truth of this logical consistency is, even though I'm the only one that's doing it to this level, it's still as independent from me as the car driving down the street is independent from me and independent from you watching this video. So it's just, there's nobody else that's operating at this level. But again, everybody speaks in fundamental ontology just without enough specificity to be developed into a proof, or to get a job, or to be a consultant, stuff like that. What's the difference between a group and a category? Again, we made that step that sets are invariable. The past is invariable. And so the past is set, right? It is set in place. It will never change. And so that, again, that's a big jump for, again, for plurality, for more than one, for many, what word do we use? What's more general, category, group, or set? It's definitely not set. What's the difference between a category and a group? I haven't rigorously proven it, but it's category. So then what is a group? I even remember, just right now, remembering my voice cracking. Not cracking, but like flipping, fundamentally ontologically flipping when I said the word grow, growth in my thing. So how do groups grow? And that's connecting that exact logic. You guys, this is Science Club. You've watched everything I've done. Haven't watched that video. You're watching me iterate the logic in real time. Give me my fucking money, you goddamn criminals. But set, the past is set. What is a setting? Right? All new information is not derived from the past, it's derived from the present. The present's not really defined, so it's the anticipation of the future based on the past. But what's the difference between a group and a category? I just said that. A setting is context, right? If we have, the setting is context. There's no need for me to try to, like, if I just state a theorem and I can't generalize it to another theorem, that it contains all the logic. Like, no explanation needed. But a setting is a context, right? What is the relationship of a setting and a subject, right? It is what it is. It defines the subject. Sensorality is our subject here in this proof. Setting, settle. Sensorality settles. Speciality unsettles. Speciality is unsettling, right? That person that's acting really erratic over there, why? That's unsettling. Look at all, and to people watching this video, look at all of the interactions I've had with police officers doing legitimately nothing besides expressing my rights and saying, here's my property, do what you're supposed to do. And then I unsettle them. They're disturbed, they're incensed, they don't know what's going on, they're having ontological shock. You're criminals. You sabotage the educational system. That's not my problem. Here's your obligation, do so. No. Huh. Kind of having some bad historical implications on that one. To everybody else watching, both the random YouTuber today and the people in the future, when I first sent them this, again, I didn't contact a single person until this proofing was completely done. Completely done. And they didn't even know what they were looking at. So that level of arrogance is just something I've never... Bad guys. And this is a YouTube video. You can extend what that means. But speciality is unsettling. Sensorality is variable. Sensorality with a C is set. Because again, we're solving sorality in the context of sensorality with a C. And now we've made a complete reduction to its set. But now when I say that, I'm just ending this YouTube video. I'm going to do more derivation by the time I close up the video and get back home in 5 minutes. And so again, don't think like there's going to be it's going to be this big gotcha moment or this big, and then there's a theorem on the board. Well, there will be, but it's not going to be. Then we're just gonna keep going. I mean, it's like it doesn't stop. I mean, that's what life is. It's not like you do a group project in junior year of high school and then you don't do anything else, right? And so, like I said, this derivation will be the fundamental value of my life for real, besides ever having a family. But I don't think that's gonna be possible. But that's what I have for math derivation today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.